Let's go visit the Honolulu Museum of Art. This is a chariot paneling, and it's made out of polychromed wood. I found an anatomically correct breastplate. These sculptures are made out of wood, which is a really rigid material, which is why it's just extraordinary that they have this very voluptuous, fleshy, soft quality to them. These sculptors really knew how to transcend their materials. These are up against the wall. I don't even know that we can really call them sculptural reliefs because they are so three-dimensional. Within the dramatic sculpted forms, you have these lovely textures that are inherent to the wood. You can see how soft and fleshy that belly is. It's rare, at least in the US, to see a museum where the emphasis is largely on Asian cultures. There's far more Asian art here in this museum compared to other museums where the Asian art seems very minimal. When I took an art history class in art school in the 90s, I know that was a very long time ago, but we talked about Asian art for about 5 minutes. This is a shell matching game from the 17th to 19th century. It's created with shells, gold leaf, and colors. The composition for these paintings is the shell itself. That is predetermined for the artist working with natural materials. I think this is the first time I've ever been to a gallery in a museum that was dedicated entirely to the Philippines. It says that long before Western contact, the Philippines was a melting pot of people and a crossroads of trade with China and Southeast Asia. This is the Philippines gallery, but I'm really surprised that so much of the artwork here is really reminiscent of European Christian artworks. By the 15th and 16th centuries, Islamic influences permeated southern coastal regions while European explorers began arriving in lowland and coastal areas. A lot of these sculptures really look like they could easily fit into religious art in the Middle Ages in Europe. Looking at these sculptures, I'm trying to dig into my art history knowledge to see where various stylistic choices might match other countries and centuries. It says that Christian deities largely replaced indigenous religious figures as Christianity was spread by the Spanish throughout the islands. Muslims in the south and animists in remote areas in the islands retained traditional religious and cultural practices, but these represented just 10% of the total population. That explains why a lot of these images are so similar to the religious sculptures in Europe. And there's an extraordinary range of painting and gilding. What's odd is that they're really all over the place stylistically. Usually whenever I go to a gallery of a specific region, you see repeated things that the artists are doing that are consistent. But here, everything's so random. It's like there's no remote cohesion at all. And I wonder if that's part of the history of the Philippines that caused the artwork to feel so stylistically haphazard. Same thing with these portrait busts. They feel like they're from multiple cultures and centuries. I can't really figure out how this all came to be within one culture. This one has really dainty features. It almost looks Victorian. This one could totally fit into ancient Greece or Rome. This one reminds me a lot of the giant Constantine sculpture, which was the introduction of the Middle Ages from ancient Rome. These figures are so primitive. I'm noticing in the low relief sculptural areas how they're seamlessly interwoven with the painted lines. Especially in the eye, you can see the carved out portions and then how the painted lines really follow that sculptural relief. This is a sculpture, but line is such a critical part of this composition in the painting and the sculpted areas. You start with the sculpted area, and then that green stripe is painted, followed up by all these other stripes of painted areas. Parts of this are raised, but you can see how dominant the lines and the color are. The rope sticks out the most, but the color really enhances what's happening around it. Oh my God. What is that? Ugh. It's sort of hard to look at, but also absolutely mesmerizing. But it's making me feel really gross. In a good way. I actually think this piece is incredibly striking. It's created out of an ʻAuʻa, which is a Hawaiian spiny lobster. He makes them from flowers, leaves, molted crustacean shells, and fish bones. They reflect his deep ties to the environment of Maui. These are described as wearable sculptures. I just took a look at his Instagram, and it looks like the final resulting artwork is a photograph. And so here we're seeing the adornments out of context. Seeing this sculpture, it almost makes my skin crawl, but I love that it evokes such a visceral reaction. I wish that they displayed one of his photographs so we could see where this wearable sculpture would end up. This piece really carries on the tradition of historical pieces that I've seen in other parts of the museum, where artists are taking natural materials and composing them into artworks that really use the inherent texture and shape of the material. This sculpture is incredibly dramatic and dynamic. A big part of that is these antennas that are sticking out way, way further away from the body. Even the lobster legs are pushing and pulling in so many different directions. There's almost a spastic quality to the way the antennas and legs are existing in the sculpture. It says, while his forms draw from a range of sources, including traditional Hawaiian craft, science fiction aliens, and comic book heroes, these wearable sculptures suggest the possibility of transformation, both for the wearer and the objects that comprise his creations. I would describe this as an artwork that slaps you in the face the second you enter the gallery. This elevator has a Jacob Lawrence painting. This is an artwork by Kapulani Landgraf, lives and works here in Hawaii. I've only been in Hawaii for about a week, but one thing that I noticed is that it's this extraordinary place that is a melting pot of so many different Asian cultures. And I've never been in a place like that. I'm first generation Taiwanese American. I had a family member who told me that he always felt like he was never Chinese enough to be comfortable in a place like, say, China, but he also felt like he was never American enough for people in the US. And he felt that Hawaii was the first place where he really felt like none of that mattered. This is 108 black and white digital photographs, and there's also a soundtrack performed by Kaleo Trinidad and Aaron J. Salah. It says the 100th anniversary commemorations of the ultimately American-backed unlawful 1893 overthrow of the Hawaiian Kingdom became a watershed moment in Kanaka, ʻAuʻa, native Hawaiian political consciousness. As I look at the faces, you see people who represent so many different cultures, and seeing them grouped together in this way in the context of Hawaiian culture is very powerful. The people in this exhibition are 108 Kanaka ʻAuʻa community leaders from diverse professions and backgrounds, all willing to have their image overlaid with these words. I really like how the text is so tiny and minimal. From a distance, you don't even really know there's text there, but then you get up close and you see how that text interweaves with all of the facial features. It's very powerful.